right, I want to get started this morning by interviewing some of the kids. Now, kids, you go to school all the time. Your parents are always teaching you. But I would like to know, if anybody in here, and you can raise your hand, is there something that you would like to teach your parents? Like, maybe you want to teach them how to play Minecraft, or maybe you want to teach them how to do, they heard me over there with the Minecraft. I had a hand raised. Let's see. What would you like to teach your parents how to do?
Ride bikes.
Ride bikes? For the record, Holly knows how to ride a bike, so I don't know where that. What do you got?
Teach my mom how to play baseball.
Oh, play baseball. I need to learn how to do that one. You got one, Nate? Let's see. Let's see what Nate wants to teach you how to do.
Teach my mom to catch.
Oh, I can't catch. I got a lazy eye going on. I can't ever catch.
That's all right.
What do you think?
Ride bikes.
Ride bikes? Do you want to ride bikes with your mom? Anybody else? Let's see. What do you think, Cece?
Softball.
Softball? Yeah. What about Braden's got one for me. Braden, you're really, really smart. So I wonder what you would like. Come up to me. I can't climb through here. I'll fall.
I would like to teach my parents how to ride a bike so I can beat them in a race.
Beat them in a race. You guys know how to ride bikes, so don't you? Riding bikes is a popular one today. All right. What's your name?
Jaden.
I like to show my mom how to ride a scooter.
Oh, how to ride a scooter. Gresham has one of these razor scooters that's like has a motor with it. And I'm like, that's deadly. I would fall if I got on it. So we heard some things that our kids would like to teach us. But this morning, I want to walk through a little bit about us passing something on to them. You know, passing what we know onto them. If you guys will open your Bibles to Deuteronomy 6, it's page 126 in the Bibles on your seat. If you don't have a Bible, feel free to take that one home. Page 126. And I need a reader. In junior church, we always get everybody involved, so we ask for readers. I would like somebody, if I could have somebody to help me read. Anybody? Let's see if there's a kid that can help me read. Braden, come on up. Give Braden a round of applause. Brave Braden. Oh, you got your own Bible. That's good. All right, Braden, how old are you?
I'm 10.
He's 10. You're going into 5th grade?
Yes.
Okay, hold this for 1 second. Let me get my page back. All right, Mr. Braden, could you please read, starting with the 1 and go all the way and stop at 6, okay? You guys read along with us.
These are the commands, decrees, and laws. The Lord your God directed me to teach you to observe in the land that you are crossing the Jordan to possess, so that you, your children, and their children after them may fear the Lord your God as long as you live, by keeping all his decrees and commands that I give you here, and so that you may enjoy long life. Hear, Israel, and be careful to obey, so that it may go well with you, and that you may increase greatly in a land flowing with milk and honey, just as the Lord, the God of your ancestors, promised you.
Very good. Oh, keep reading 4 and 5. Good job.
Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength. These commandments that I give you are to be on your hearts.
Very good. You can stop there. All right. Great job, Braden. Great job. I'll put this up there. So when I was preparing this week and studying to teach you guys today, I realized we get the 10 Commandments in Exodus, but then here we read them again in Deuteronomy. And I wanted to find out, why do we have them twice? So I called my dad. He's a walking seminary. And I was like, Dad, Google let me down, man. The commentaries, those are confusing. Can you just help me out? I wanted to know why we had it twice. And he said, what's interesting is in Exodus, it's like the news. It's happening right now. But in Deuteronomy, it's more like a fireside chat. Moses is realizing that his time is kind of coming to an end, and this is what he wants to say before he leaves. So this is very, very important, and I thought that was really, really interesting. If you guys will pick up with me in verse 6. And I need another reader. I got somebody else that can help me out and read? Anybody? Come on up. All right, you hold this.
What am I reading?
You're going to read from 6 all the way to 8.
These commandments that give
You today.
you today are to be upon your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you talk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up.
That's good. Very good. Let's give him a round of applause. So we read, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind." And what's interesting is, when we think of the word hear, I simply understand that as my brain is taking in noise coming into my ears. But in the Hebrew language, which is what the Old Testament is written in, that word hear is packed with a lot more than that. It means to heed, to listen, and obey. So that word here, it's called Shema, implies action. So I hear that, but I need to do something about it. I don't know about you guys. I got tickled this week thinking about this. If this has ever happened to you, there's been a bunch of times where I've asked somebody what time it is, or what their name is, or something. And has anybody ever had it happen where you're not really listening and you have to ask again? Yeah, that's happened to me. Super embarrassing, super annoying. And so Moses is trying to get their attention with this. And this first part, the Shema, is actually what Hebrew people hold as one of their most important prayers. The love the Lord your God after is what Jesus said. All the commandments hang on that one. So it's interesting to think about hearing versus just listening. Now, we read about teaching them to your children. So this week when I was looking at that, I thought, okay, that's great. But what about people like me who don't have kids? I don't have kids in my house, so does that mean I get a hall pass? I don't have to do anything about this? This part doesn't apply to me? That's not true. I looked up the word children when it says, impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home, when you walk along the road, when you lie down, and when you get up. And the word children in here, it's really interesting. It doesn't mean children under your roof. It actually means children in your community, descendants of a people group. So whether you have kids or not, everybody has a responsibility to do the following. Everybody has a responsibility to live in such a way that children can learn from you. And I started thinking, in my job, it's really easy to do that. I'm a children's minister. It's pretty obvious that I have a lot of opportunity to teach kids about God. That works out well for me. But what about people who have full-time jobs and maybe their kids are out of the house or they don't have children yet? And I thought of several ways. You can help in children's ministry. We've got a preschool that we're starting that needs investing in financially. Or, I don't know, how many of you sponsor a Compassion Kid? Anybody do the child sponsorship through Compassion? A few of you? I feel like that is one of the best ways to live out this passage. Some people talk to me about, I don't really know what to write them. I don't know if I'm making that big of a difference. I don't know if it really helps. I just talk to them about what this scripture says. I talk to them about loving the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul. I'll write Bible stories to them, and I would really encourage you guys to do that. I encourage you to take that opportunity. If you're not currently sponsoring a child through Compassion, I really, really suggest that you look into that. You can go on their website. It's a great way to reach out to kids, even if you don't have kids in your own home, or if you want to reach out internationally. But what I wanted to focus on more today is, how do we do it if they are in our house? How do we do it if we do have kids living under our roof? Because I think, again, I'm not a parent, but I think parenting would probably be really hard. I always say you're the best parent until you have kids. So I love to hear from other people about how they do it. So I'm going to ask a few people to come up here and just talk with us about how they do faith in their home. So first, I'd like to ask Roy and Judy to come on up. If you guys will clap for Mr. Roy and Miss Judy. And these mics are already hot, so you guys, this is the couch from my house. I thought it would make it feel more like a talk show. I said I wanted to bring another chair so I could feel like Ellen and I would dance, but you know, I didn't get that far. So, no, you don't have to dance. So, Roy and Judy, tell us a little bit about you guys and your kids.
Well, obviously they're grown now. We have two, a boy and a girl, 4 years apart, and Dean and Aaron. And currently Dean is a volleyball coach at Belmont, and Aaron lives in upstate New York. So,
very good. So how old are they?
40 and 36.
40 and 36. And this is why I wanted to talk with them for a while, is they've kind of walked that road and come out on the other side. So I want to know, when your kids were growing up, what kind of things did you do to pass faith on to them?
Well, one of the things is that we were constantly in church. We didn't just leave them at church. We were in church and constantly modeling, you know, what it was to be a Christian. And if it was teaching or whatever, we were involved in that way because God was leading us to do it.
Right.
And we were chatting about this last night, just, you know, our memories and how important it was to us, and looking back, how important we realized it was that we surrounded our children with other adults who had the same belief systems we did, that we didn't just hang out at church, we hung out in each other's homes. And that had such an impact on our kids and on the friendships that they formed that kept them accountable over time.
Let me ask you this. Sully and I were in the process of adopting, and sometimes I'm excited about that, and other times I'm terrified to be a parent and what is all entailed in that. What if they don't like me and all that stuff? And so many things bide for your time as a parent. So how do you make sure that you're doing all of these things and still live life and make sure it gets to be a priority? Because there's just so much to do now.
How you spend your time is probably one of the most impactful things. You know, you can tell your children all you want what your priorities are, and how you spend your money communicates priorities, but nothing communicates your real priorities like how you spend your time. And you do have to guard your time, but you also, it's involved in following God's call on your life and integrating your children into that too. Teaches them to walk that path and to give of their time, to be generous with their time for others.
And let's get real here for a minute. What didn't work? Because my dad, as I mentioned, he's a pastor, and he would say, Saturday mornings we're going to sit down, we're going to have a devotional, and all my sister and I wanted to do was watch cartoons. And he was like, let's talk about bad company corrupting good character. And it just totally didn't work because we went the way other way. But, so what things for you guys didn't work? Just so we can all see that some things do well and some things don't. And
That whole idea of formal devotionals didn't work for us. We tried it off and on because I always liked the idea, you know, and
Some of the most tense moments probably were during those formal devotion times. Yes.
because it all became so stiff and I don't want to say unreal, but but not real in the way that day-to-day life was. And so the kids would sit and listen, and we would do our thing and make them participate and all that. And it's not that it was a bad thing, but it never became a routine thing for us. It worked much better for us to weave those lessons in and out of daily life than to have a sit-down particular time to have them.
So you said in and out of daily life. Do you think there's something to be said of still being intentional but natural and kind of organic? Like how do those two work together? I didn't
You're doing well.
that one. That one just popped in my head.
I think for one thing, I did preschool ministry for a long time, and so perhaps this one was more in the front of my mind than it is for a lot of people. But I think it's important that parents get straight in their own mind their theology, what they believe about God, about Jesus, about the Bible, and so that these ideas and beliefs come out spontaneously, so they don't come out like something you're reading out of a book, but that you really do believe in the God of the universe who made things. That's the first construct that little kids understand. And if you can keep your awe for God's magnificence in making our world, then you'll spontaneously communicate that to your kids.
Well, very good. That's all that I need from you guys. Let's give them a round of applause. It's good, Elvis. So we've heard from some veterans, but I thought it would also be good to hear from some people that are kind of in the thick of it right now, that have 2 kids under age 6, and it's busy and bedtime and all this stuff. So I want to invite the Slushers to come on up here. Lisa and Scott, if you guys will clap for them. Make your way to... She's going the long way. Welcome. If you guys can just grab a mic. So kind of going off what Roy and Judy said, you guys have little kids. How old are your kids again?
Hazel's 5 and Zane is 3.
Hazel's 5 and Zane is 3. Anybody that's ever had a 3-year-old knows how hard 3-year-olds are. That's like the class at church. I'm like, oh, Jesus, please give us 3-year-old volunteers, because they're tough.
People say the 2s are hard, but it's the 3s.
They lied, because they never had a 3-year-old.
True.
All right, so tell us how you guys do that with having such little kids at home. How do you teach them about God?
Go ahead.
We just try to do it like in our everyday life with them. I mean, like everything that we do, if we're trying to get them to eat vegetables, I'm like, look at these beautiful colors. God made every single color in a vegetable. Isn't that so cool? And if we're driving down the road, it's like, look at that beautiful tree. Isn't that so cool how God made that tree so much taller than buildings? And Zane right now, everything is amazing. Everything he sees, like, that's amazing. And like, I wish that we were that way about God. Like, I want us to be that way, like that he is, where everything we see, it's like, that's amazing that God made that.
Yeah. What for you guys hasn't worked?
Hasn't worked in what aspect?
Like, is there anything that you guys have tried to do as a family to do faith together that maybe you're like, that doesn't really work for us, or?
Well, I think going back, Roy and Judy, I think the devotional time, I always think I was raised having devotionals, and that's something, at least in our married life and our time here with the 5 years with our children, that I thought we would do more often, was have these morning Bible studies, evening Bible studies, and it just, time gets away. So we try to find ways to integrate it throughout the day when we're visiting with or playing with our kids, out in the garden with our kids. And so that's, I think, probably the devotionals haven't worked.
And times that we try to do it, like you sit down, you try to have a talk with them, and you try to go over something really deep with them, and then she's like, look at that butterfly. So I'm like, all right, good talk. Good talk. We'll try this again in 10 years.
Well, and what's so good about doing it that way, where it's a normal flow of life, there's not so much pressure to feel like you're getting interrupted. You know, if you're trying to sit down and trying to teach something, there'll be a phone call or some kind of baseball game or something that comes up. But when you make it a part of everyday life, you don't have to feel so like, oh, we got to have this time, you know. What do you guys, like, what are your prayers for your kids?
One thing that Scott's mom has always said about me is she said, I prayed about you probably before you were ever even born. And so for my kids, I want to pray for them that they'll find a spouse who is, a godly man, a godly woman for them, because I think that's so, so important. And I just pray for their relationship together, that they keep God, as much as we should keep God and Jesus in our marriage, I want them to keep it in their relationship as brother-sister. Because I think that them just being each other, that could be a huge advantage to them, to have Jesus in their in their life. And they do it. I mean, I'm amazed where Hazel will say, Zane woke up last night, was scared, and I just told him to pray, and we said a prayer. And I'm like, oh, it just melts my heart, that they have that.
Well, very good. Thank you very much. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you for sharing. You don't have to do anything. Very good. I really appreciate the Slushers filling in. I wanted Lydia Buttermeyer, Keith's daughter, he spoke last week, was going to come and make jokes about Keith while they're on their cruise, but she wasn't able to come today, so I appreciate them pinch hitting for me. But like I said, I wanted them to come up just because it's great to see that in Scripture, and there's so much that you're like, oh yeah, I got to do that. But how do we do that? And that's why I wanted to invite them to come and talk, because we have been given such a great gift. Even now, hearing the kids over there, we might be a little bit like, oh, it's hard to focus or whatever, but the fact that we've got little ones under our care, in our church, we have over 100 kids and about 60 middle to high school kids. So that's a huge gift that we've been given, and we can have divine moments with them. And as a church, we like to say at WellSpring, we're a family. And as a family, we need to be good stewards of the gift that we have. It's interesting, if you look in this scripture, I call it my nerd Bible, because it has a lot of extra facts. It has Greek and Hebrew language in it, so that's why I call it my nerd Bible. But as I was studying this passage, it said that this was so crucial to a society because the Israelites didn't do this. And in Hosea, we read about the downfall of them because they didn't pass it on to their children. And as Christians, our role is to bring God's kingdom here, and we do that by passing it on and having our kids see how we're being the hands and feet of Jesus. I would love it if this next generation was the group of people that, instead of Christian being synonymous with weird, wacko, all that stuff, I would love for this age of kids in here right now to be the group of people that are outside the faith say they really care about people. They really live like the Jesus of this Bible lives. But that's not going to happen if we don't build into them. We have a responsibility. And I started sharing this last service. And as I was preparing for this, and I was standing up here, I joked about how my dad wanted to do the 3-hour devotionals and stuff, but I'm standing here because he stood here. I'm living my life as a Christian because it was mirrored for me. And even now, because I know that my dad lived his life like that, if I'm going through a hard time, I still call my dad. I'll be 27 tomorrow, and there's so many times where I'm like, Dad, I need your help. What do you think I should do? And so even though his intentional attempts maybe weren't the best, how he lived his life is what affected me, because your kids are watching. Everything you do, they're watching, they're listening. Even if they don't act like it, they're watching you. And I told a story first hour, and I thought it was so beautiful because I think as parents, the temptation would be to want to do everything right. And a parent handled a situation with their child badly. They felt like it wasn't handled right. And he said, I was torn because part of me was, I'm the adult, the whole thing. But I had to go back in to my daughter and ask for her forgiveness. And we got to have this cool moment about she saw me realizing I had done wrong, and I was asking for forgiveness. And I think that'd be hard to do as a parent, to admit fault. But that's what your kids need to see. Because that way they know that there's grace for them when they do things wrong. We don't want our kids to feel like they're living under the old law and it's rules, 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 rules. We want it to be a relationship. And so I just want to encourage you guys in that. We're going to take communion as a family in a moment. And at WellSpring, we believe that communion is open to all believers, but we want to do it a little differently today. We've got some stations set up in the back here and here. And I want this to be a time where you guys can go as a family and take communion. And parents, maybe you huddle around and you talk to your kids more about what that means. You know, we believe communion is a time to remember the sacrifice that Jesus gave us. But maybe you also take that time to say, what as a family can we commit to do better in this? And so I'm going to pray, and the band's going to come back up, and they're going to play. But as I said, I just encourage you this week to listen to how God wants you to live your life for your kids and the kids around you. And one more thing I want to mention. We talked about this first hour. One of the best things that you can do for your kids is to have a healthy marriage. For your kids to be emotionally whole. Having a healthy marriage really, really benefits them. And we're starting a new program here at WellSpring that I would love for you guys to take advantage of. It's a marriage mentoring program. And I think that's a great thing if you guys want to make sure that you have a safe home for your kids to take part in some of those programs. And if you want to talk about that, you can see me or see another staff member and we can let you know about that. But I think that'd be great for you and I think that'd be great for your kids.